Impact of Influence, the Murdaugh family murders. This is the unfolding story of a powerful South Carolina family, the mysterious deaths they are linked to, and our quest to bring you the truth. Hello, friend. So grateful that you're going to spend some time with us. We know there's a lot of options, and you're choosing us, and that's wonderful. And we hope that you will follow and share the episode and give us a nice, huge 1,000,000-star rating. I am Matt Harris, Seton Tucker on vacation, so she's via phone. Hello, Seton.
Hello.
How was the beach today?
It was cold. I actually had to wear my jacket on the beach. It was freezing. We've not had good weather this week.
Come on. Well, you're at the beach, so
I am.
You kind of win.
I am.
You can reach out, Murdaugh Podcast on Facebook, or questions to mattharrispodcast@gmail.com. We're going to get to some Stephen Smith stuff in just a little bit, but let's start with some of the things that you found out over just the last few hours that we've been getting ready to record.
I wanted to report first that there is a federal court telephone conference scheduled in the Alex Murdaugh financial crimes hearing for June 23rd at 10:30 a.m. And I've gotten some insight on this. Basically, if there's a telephone conference, that means both sides have probably come together and they agree on something, but they need to present it to the judge to make sure the judge agrees also on that. So I don't know. It's possible that it could be about this plea or something else that both parties have agreed upon.
Interesting. Good job. And what else have you heard about Alex Murdaugh? And you said you found out something about federal prison.
We had a question from a listener about why Alex Murdaugh at this federal court hearing did not request to go to a federal prison. And actually spoke with someone and they said that the holding facility for federal crimes is actually the county facility, and that's way worse than the state prison. So you would not want that.
So you're saying that where he is now is better than a holding place before you go to federal?
Right. You would be at the county jail facility, which is a worse situation than the state prison.
So he might eventually want to go to federal, but he doesn't want to go there now until has been giving his sentence, so he doesn't have to go in the holding area.
Yeah, I think obviously federal prison is probably his end game if that's his best case scenario. But in the interim, while he's awaiting his trial on these federal crimes, he's in a better position.
Okay. Do you have anything else on that? Or do you want to move to what's happening with Stephen Smith's case?
Let's go. Let's move on to Stephen Smith.
Okay. There's multiple reports. Our friend Michael DeWitt has reported on it. Fitsnews on top of it as well. And it looks like things are moving according to Eric Bland. He's been talking to the media and releasing statements about the Stephen Smith case and where it might go. And he's one of the attorneys representing Sandy Smith, Stephen's mother. And he said he believed a grand jury has been impaneled in the case based on his conversations, Bland's conversations with Mark Keel, who is a South Carolina State Law Enforcement Division head cheese. And so apparently there's subpoenas and all this. He said that on court TV. And now Michael DeWitt said in his column, in his article, that Bland told him there could be arrest made by Labor Day.
Yes, they say substantial progress and that the state grand jury was issuing subpoenas and warrants.
And so things are moving quickly in that. And it's really crazy. If you think back to how long ago the Stephen Smith, it looks like it might have been a murder, occurred, it's now been, doing the math, 8 years?
Yeah. And, we haven't really talked a lot about Stephen Smith lately because, again, it didn't really seem tied to Murdaugh. Fitz reported that. It doesn't appear that the Murdaughs are in any way related, but we did think it was a good time to revisit this.
Right. Remember, Buster had given his statement, I don't know how many months ago that was, about he had nothing to do with it, with the Stephen Smith. There was always those rumors out there which had nothing to back them up. And it was kind of ridiculous that people were pounding on Buster about that with absolutely zero evidence of him being involved in any way, shape, or form. And also, as far as sort of forensics, I guess we could call it, Seaton, there's something about his body.
Yeah, Fitsnews reported that their sources say that it appears as if Stephen Smith's body was not moved. So he was murdered at the place that he was found. So that was a question I think a lot of people had. And we should note that we still are waiting for the results of this second autopsy. Stephen's body was exhumed and there was a second autopsy conducted, and we don't know the results of that autopsy at this time.
July 8th, 2015, Stephen Smith found dead in the road. The officers investigating said that this is not a hit and run. And then suddenly the coroner and the medical examiner, well, I should say the medical examiner in Charleston ruled it a hit and run, very controversial. Many people were very upset. I mean, when I say many people, I mean like people that are in the know, people, uniformed officers who have dealt with this over and over again. Trooper Moore, who we've had on the air, who has seen hundreds of hit and runs, said he didn't believe it was one. And so the case went nowhere for a long time. And then after the murders of Maggie and Paul, SLED, South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, said they were reopening the case. And we still don't know like what happened, if they found out something in that case, or it's a coincidence about the time. Of course, we don't know that yet because we have not heard what was presented to the grand jury. And we don't know, of course, because obviously not been in any news leaks about this. But the people of interest in connection with Smith's death, Fitsnews reported, are 25-year-old Patrick Wilson and 25-year-old Sean Connolly, both of Brunson, South Carolina. So we thought it'd be a good time to, and Fitz and Will are cool. They gave us access to the police interview with Stephanie, Stephen's twin sister, that took place soon after Stephen's body was found. It was July 17th, this interview was done. And we're going to give you some of the things that were were interesting in there that we thought. And let's start with the fact, Seaton, in this interview, this is a little bit into the interview with Stephanie. She talks about how Stephen, over the last couple of weeks, started acting differently.
When he got into college, the first semester, he was acting normal. And then when he started doing summer classes, that's when he started acting a little funny. And
when you say funny?
He started coming home late.
Okay.
Like just this recent Monday, he didn't come home until 2 o'clock in the morning. And sometimes he'll send me pictures, like he sent me a picture of his cat, and his shoe was off, and I was like, "Are you at Mom's?" He said, "No, I'm still at school. I took my shoe off to get mud off his shoe." And I'm sitting here like, that campus isn't muddy, it's clean and everything, so that didn't add up. But I didn't want to pressure him, so I just left it alone. And, he acted normal until just recently.
Yes, and if you've heard the interview with Stephanie and with his mom, it is very obvious that the officers don't buy the hit and run thing. In fact, they say that in the interview. And, right there, they're going after a clue because something happened in the last couple of weeks where he was acting differently.
Yeah, and we should note that this interview with Stephanie was 9 days after his death.
Right.
And so she's probably really still processing this whole situation of her twin brother being dead and trying to make sense of it.
Absolutely. I mean, there's, and then you're also in this police room being interviewed and trying to rack your brain about who might have done this. And so the interview goes on, and they start talking about this hangout on the July 4th weekend. So remember that Stephen's body found on the 8th at this Bobcat Landing, and there was a fight. Here's that conversation.
Well, my mom said he started going over to her house. He would skip school some days and go to her house and stay there until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And she said he started hanging out at this place called Bobcat Landing. And he got in an altercation there. This is what my sister, it's on her phone, it was text messages between her and Steven, and he was asking her to come help him because cops got called out and he was getting an argument with somebody. I don't know exactly who it was, but I know it was around this same exact time that this incident happened.
I don't really find it super unusual. I mean, kids at that age, they skip school. They're going to go hang out with people at different places. So I don't really find it that unusual that he was doing that, but it could be a clue into his death investigation.
Also, Bobcat Landing is not too far from Brunson, which is where the names we met, the people of interest, if you will, are from. The names we gave you earlier, they're from Brunson, and I Googled it and looked it up, and it's right there pretty much. So maybe there's something there. We don't know yet. So later in the conversation, this guy Mark shows up. Here's how he enters the picture.
Did you know, did he have any type of boyfriends or anything like that?
Steven's never had a relationship. That's one thing that got me when this guy said I'm his boyfriend, because he's not Steven's type.
Okay.
And because Steven liked skinny, kind of built, light-skinned guys.
Okay.
And, when this guy's like, I'm his boyfriend, I'm just like, no, you're more of a sugar daddy. And he got mad at me for saying that, but I was just,
I understand.
explaining to him, and he don't want to talk to me because everything he told me about Steven, I'm sitting here calling him a liar because...
Can you tell me some of the things that he told you about Steven?
He told me Steven was in an escort service, and I know for a fact Steven wasn't because he never left the house like that. And I think you got to be at least 21, I think.
Okay.
And he said he did it out in Charleston, and he was making about $3,800 a night and stuff like that. And he said him and Steven met at a club, and I told him that was a lie because we only went to one club, and that was Club Pantheon in Charleston because it was 18 and older. And he didn't meet anybody there because I was stuck on him like glue. I wouldn't let him go anywhere.
This dude is strange, man, because he is inserting himself into the family, and the family's like, we know, Steven tells us everything. And she talks about how Steven was such a good guy, and she knows him, that if he ever had that kind of money, first of all, he never had that kind of money, but if he did, he would have spent it on his family, like his dad and his mom and his sister and his niece and nephew. And so she's saying he's full of it. And Mark's claiming to have paid for Steven's stuff. Eventually, Stephanie says that Steven said someone had paid for his phone bill, his phone, and gave him $200 for scrubs. But she says that Steven never mentioned Mark's name, so he wasn't an important person in his life.
I don't know what to make of it. I think that possibly, I'm assuming law enforcement has investigated this person.
Yeah.
We've seen in other true crime scenarios that people come forward and they say these things, and sometimes they're true and sometimes they're not. I don't know.
And this Mark dude, according to Stephanie, was like trying to prove that he was the boyfriend. I don't know why he's trying to climb on like that. So he showed a picture of him and Steven together and said they had a fight over a 22-year-old. And it just really strange. He's trying to insert himself into the family. I'm not sure why. Let's take a break here and talk about one of our fine sponsors. We hope you'll support. Seton, you got a little time in your hands coming up.
Yeah, my middle son just graduated from high school, and my youngest just got a driver's license, and I've always wanted to learn a new language.
Well, I'll tell you, Rosetta Stone makes it easy to get started, and they'll create a learning plan for you that's easy to follow and keeps you motivated and on track with your goals.
Yeah, they have 25 languages to choose from, so I'm looking into Spanish, German, Chinese.
A lot of great options. And what Rosetta Stone does is they break down your new language into bite-sized pieces so you can make progress even if you only have, say, 10 minutes at a time. The Impact of Influence listeners, our listeners, can get Rosetta Stone's lifetime unlimited subscription, which gives you access to all 25 of their languages forever for 40% off. Visit rosettastone.com/today.
Rosetta Stone, how languages learned.
So anyway, continues, and then they go back to this fact that he was starting to get secretive over the last couple of weeks.
So he was becoming more secretive then. Mm-hmm. And then was that with the whole family, including you?
Yeah, but that's when he kind of, it's like my sister would call and ask him to take her places, and he was acting normal, and then he started coming home late and going to Bamberg all the time.
So that comes up again, and I'm going to roll right into this where she starts describing the night before, or the night he died, and what happened leading up to him leaving the house.
The day, before he left that day, he was at Bronson Exxon getting cigarettes for my dad, and he called me and told me his car wouldn't crank.
What time was that?
It was about 5:30.
In the afternoon?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I checked his car. I went to go jump it off, and it's like somebody loosened his battery connections.
Okay.
Unscrewed it and loosened them. So I tightened them back up, and I followed him all the way home. He hopped in the shower, got out, and left at exactly 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And that was the last time.
Did he say where he was going to?
No.
All right.
Interesting thing there was that little moment where she said it looked like somebody disconnected the battery. So I wonder if there was some foul play trying to get him to have his car break down or, not start or whatever. So whoever was after him could get him, because remember, his car ran out of gas.
Yeah, it was found on the side of the road with the gas tank open. So, yeah, maybe there was some sort of foul play.
Yes, interesting take on that. So she goes on and talks more about the fight that happened at the Bobcat landing. She doesn't know anybody's names or knows who was there. And they say, well, we're going to look into it. We're going to find out which jurisdiction was doing that. She talked about Stephen never starting his clinicals, which he said he was going to do. And they address the Buster Murdaugh rumors. And it's pretty obvious that Stephanie doesn't believe the Buster rumors. And here's a little clip.
A bunch of people, I just left the house the first official time yesterday.
Yes, ma'am.
And I went into the store, and a bunch of people kept coming up to me, and they're like, did you know the Murdaugh boys are behind it? Saying Buster Murdaugh, the one we went to school with, did it, and some of his friends, and I'm just sitting here like, why? It makes no sense. He's never said anything bad about Stephen. He's never been around Stephen to, I was mind-boggled at that, and I kind of ignored it. And, I haven't heard any more about that.
Has anybody talked to your mom? Now, and this has anybody brought it to the attention of your mom about, rumors and things like that? Has she heard anything that you know of?
She's heard the same exact stuff I've heard, but she's more stuck on Mark did it, and all that, so.
This Mark dude, I don't know, they also at one point talk about they believed that he was following Sandy around. I've never heard the guy mentioned in any kind of person of interest or anything like that. Maybe just a strange guy. I don't know.
We've heard so many people saying Buster, 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 Stephen Smith. So to me, I found this interview very interesting. The fact that the family did not think that Buster had anything to do with it.
Yeah. Very beginning, Sandy was saying that Buster and Stephen were kind of friends, at least friendly. She didn't buy it at the very beginning. So here's really interesting part, because Stephen she says, has run out of gas a couple of times, but his behavior the other times he ran out of gas were completely different. Listen to this.
Had he ever run out of gas before?
Yes, and that was in the SUV, except right where he parked his car, a little farther down the road, there was this little driveway. You could barely see it. He parked the truck in there, and then he walked, and right where that fence was, where his car was, he would hide there. And he called me and my dad, and we were sitting there going back and forth on the road, asking him where he was, and he was like, you passed me again. That's the type of person he was. He would hide.
Seaton, how about that?
Yeah, I think that's why the family has had so many questions about why he was found in the middle of the road, because he would have been the type of person who would have gotten off.
And remember, you and I have both been on that road. It's a straightaway. You see a car coming from a long way away. It's not like it sneaks up on you in a turn.
Yeah, no, you would definitely see it coming from away, especially you would just see the headlights.
You're not going to be in the middle of the road. And there's more on the fact that he would hide a lot. Let's listen to this.
Well, a lot of people have came up to me and said that they don't believe it's a hit and run, because, they're doing their own little investigation, and they're saying it don't add up and all of this and that, because everybody knew Stephen. Me and him would jump in the woods if we heard or saw a car. It's just we did it when we were little.
See, there it is again, Seton, another mention of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the family never believed that Stephen would be someone who would be in the middle of the road.
And when you hear this interview with Stephanie, and you hear the interview with Sandy, and we know it's so apparent that the people who are the troopers that are interviewing them are digging in, trying to find out what happened. If they thought it was a hit and run, they would not be doing the interviews the way they were doing it. I mean, they point blank say that they in the interviews that they don't believe in their experience that this was a hit and run. And they wrap up with Stephen's sister by saying, okay, don't tell anybody we're digging into this because we don't want word to get out because it could mess up the investigation. Don't even tell your mom or your dad, or that's why we're doing this interview with you alone. And so then the Sandy Smith interview comes up, and it's a lot of talk about Mark again and how Mark is, inserting himself into the family, and she thinks it's super weird. And she talks about how Stephen had been acting odd in the last couple of weeks prior to his, I guess we're going to now call him murder. Stephen was going to her house all the time, every day, which was unusual, not studying like he normally did because he loved to study, but he was not doing that. So there was something odd in the last couple of weeks, according to Sandy, before this happened. And in this interview, they ask her about hearing rumors.
Other than Mark, has anybody else? Have you heard any rumors or anything like that? Other than anything other than Mark.
The rumors that's going around Hampton that everybody keeps coming up to me and saying it was Murdaugh boys.
The Murdaugh boys?
Yes, whoever they are.
Okay, all right. And when you say, did they give any kind of description of what they mean, why they think it's the Murdaugh boys?
No. But I called David Rowell today because I was in town yesterday, and this guy named James Eady said that he seen this guy that morning in a different vehicle speeding, and then when the sirens started coming right before they got to where Stephen was, he slowed down.
Okay.
And then James said when he got to Exxon, that guy was coming out as he was going in, and the guy was all sweaty and jittery.
And we're talking about Mark?
No, yeah, he said, yeah, the description he gave sounded like Mark.
Okay.
So it's really this Mark thing. And the Murdaugh boys, she says, whoever they are, she knew they were, but I don't know. But again, no alarm went off in her head about the Murdaughs. So that whole thing was just one of those crazy small town rumors that happens, I believe. All right, Seton, before we wrap, get you back to cocktails or the beach or whatever you're doing, what else do we want to mention before we put a bow on it?
Well, just a few things. I want to say that I hope what Eric Land has said, that there's substantial progress in this case, is true, and that the Smith family does get resolution to the death of their son. I mean, I think that's everyone's goal here. Also, I want to say this is our 2-year anniversary, and I don't know that we even recognize that.
Oh, yeah.
And this time last year, I was on vacation, and I left on vacation to go to Alex Murdaugh's bond hearing. And now we know he's a twice convicted murderer, but who knew what this crazy year would bring us? And I appreciate Matt and Dwayne.
You're the one that got this ball rolling. We had no idea what we were doing, but we rolled on, and we are so grateful for all the listens. We love the comments, whether they're good or bad. We take them and try to get better with every note. And in the ugly ones, we just laugh them off because that's part of the business.
We had a bad one this week. Did you see it?
Oh, God, no. I think, yes, I think I did.
Gary from Mount Pleasant said, but she thought we were hired by the Murdaugh team, and she really did not like listening to us. But I love your home, Sherry from Mount Pleasant, but I'm sorry that maybe you won't hear this, that you're not listening to us.
Yeah. Well, if we were being paid off by the Murdaughs, then Seton's taking it because I don't have it.
I'm stashing it under my bed.
Yes. That's why she's on vacation at Hilton Head. Yes, it's been paid for by the Murdaughs. They've always wondered where all Alex money went. Jeez, why am I driving a 2017 Hyundai? Jeez, this is ridiculous.
Well, we do need to talk about where the money. Next episode, we should do a little bit of a talk about where the money is going, where the money is.
Where the money is, baby. All right. We are always grateful. Always grateful. We mean it. It's a very serious sentiment. And you can find us on Murdaugh Podcast Facebook page and mattharrispodcast@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and share the episode. Seaton will be returning, we think, unless she likes it too much down there. And we'll be back at it again. Dwayne, thank you. And we will talk soon, friend.